welcome. Thanks for joining us. Today is Tuesday, September 21st, and the last day of summer. And you are watching Regent Park Weekly News, bringing you the latest local news and events around Regent Park and Toronto. My name is Murphy Brown, and my co-hosts are Fred Alvarado and Humira Rahman.
We'd like to begin our show with the tragic story about Regent Park resident Thane Murray, who was shot and killed last Saturday in the area of Oak and Sumac Streets. Community journalist Murphy Brown has a full report about the incident.
Toronto police have identified the man killed when 4 suspects opened fire in Regent Park on Saturday evening. Officers were called to a shooting in the area of Oak and Sumac Streets just before 9 p.m. When they arrived, they located 3 men suffering from gunshot wounds. One of the men was pronounced dead at the scene. On Sunday, police identified him as 27-year-old Thane Murray from Toronto. The other 2 victims were transported to the hospital, a 29-year-old man with critical injuries and a 27-year-old man with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. On Sunday, police said that the 29-year-old is now in stable condition. Homicide investigators continue to search for 4 suspects.
So we're talking about Saturday evening, we're talking about just before 9 o'clock that evening. We responded to a call for the sounds of gunshots. We had reports that multiple gunshots had been heard and there were people that were fleeing that scene. When our officers arrived on scene, they were able to locate 3 men, all suffering gunshot wounds in different stages of injury. One man, who received very serious injuries, was pronounced deceased on scene. Both of the other 2 men were taken to hospital, one with serious injuries and is now in stable condition, and the other person that had non-life-threatening injuries. We have begun an investigation. The homicide squad is in charge of that investigation. So it's very, very difficult for us to comment on what may have caused this incident. Our chief has spoken about gun violence and gangs being a problem in our city. But we have our homicide squad, which are our best and our brightest, that are investigating this, trying to get to the bottom of what happened. Until they release a report, until they let us know exactly what the motive might have been or who is involved, it's impossible to speculate on what may have caused this incident. And what I can tell you is this. It appears that a group of people were standing or talking in the area. They were approached by 4 individuals. Those 4 individuals, each of them produced firearms and started shooting at the group. In total, as the count went on Saturday, there were more than 50 bullets shot. As far as we're aware, we're still investigating to determine if there were more. Those same 4 individuals left together, last seen going in a northerly direction. We're looking for anyone who may have maybe dash cam video, maybe there's Nest cameras, or might have been in the area that might have seen 4 individuals either entering that area or leaving that area to contact investigators.
Investigators are asking anyone with information to contact them at 416-808-7400 or at Crime Stoppers anonymously at 416-222-8477. Murray is Toronto's 61st homicide victim of 2021. Thane Murray is being remembered as someone who is deeply caring and compassionate about youth empowerment. Toronto Councillor Kristen Wong-Tam took to Twitter on Monday to share her thoughts on the shooting, as well as personal details about who Murray was. With heavy hearts, we mourn the sudden death of Thane Murray, a well-known youth worker in the community and a City of Toronto employee at the Regent Park Community Centre. He was a valuable member of the Toronto Public Service and will be missed by many who knew and loved him, Wong Tam wrote. In particular, it's the youth and recreation workers and the incredible kids who knew firsthand of Thane's hard work and deep passion for youth empowerment that are feeling this tragic loss the hardest. Thane Murray cared deeply about his family, friends, community, and work. Wong Tam went on to highlight the area in which the incident took place, saying if the shooting took place in Rosedale, no expense would be spared to provide mental health/grief counseling and programs to address roots of violence. But it happened in Regent Park, in Alexander Park, and Lawrence Heights, where majority of families are poor and racialized, she said.
Continuing with the story on Regent Park legend, community hero Big T, a homicide happened in Regent Park. The City of Toronto released a media statement on the shooting of Big T and offered its deepest condolences to the friends and family of city employee Thane Murray. Big T worked in recreational programs at several recreation facilities in the city's East End with the City Parks, Forest and Recreation Division. Thane was a well-regarded member of Toronto Public Service and a much loved community member who will deeply be missed. Mayor John Tory tweeted, "My thoughts go out to family and friends and colleagues of Thane Murray. We know he has touched many lives through his work at recreation facilities in the city East End, and his death has shocked so many in our parks, forests, and recreation divisions. This is a tragedy for the Regent Park community and our entire city. I know Toronto Police are working strong and hard to bring those who are responsible for this tragic passing to justice."
Sending us back to work with a clear mandate to get Canada through this pandemic and to the brighter days ahead. And my friends, that's exactly what we are ready to do.
Canadians have chosen another minority Liberal government, almost identical to the one it replaced, to finish the fight against COVID-19 and rebuild the shattered economy. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau hung on to power on Monday as his main rival conceded defeat, saying he had won a clear mandate to govern, although he fell short of his goal for a majority win. Trudeau, in power since 2015 and governing with a minority of House of Commons seats since 2019, decided to gamble on an early vote and capitalize on his government's handling of the pandemic, which included massive spending to support individuals and businesses and a push for high vaccination rates. Instead, he will end up where he started after an unexpectedly tight election race characterized by a lackluster campaign and voter anger at an election during a pandemic. Conservative leader Erin O'Toole, whose party placed second, conceded defeat as results trickled in late into the night. Trudeau spoke to supporters shortly after, pledging to work with other parties for the good of all Canadians. "You are sending us back to work with a clear mandate to get Canada through this pandemic and to the brighter days ahead," Trudeau said to a small crowd gathered in a hotel ballroom. Polls reported results much more slowly than usual, with some stations forced to limit occupancy due to COVID-19 restrictions. Long lines forced some electors to wait hours to vote in southern Ontario, a critical battleground.
But now that the party's promises to Canadians have paved the way for it once again form government, it's time for the Liberals to actually try to keep them. We took a look at their platform and identified which pledges will be the hardest for Trudeau's government to deliver on. The Liberals have promised to fully implement Jordan's Principle, a rule that pledges to provide First Nations children with the services they need, when they need them, rather than first taking the time to sort out which level of government is responsible for the cost. However, the implementation of Jordan's Principle has been a thorny issue in recent years, with both the Assembly of First Nations taking the government to court over what they say has been a failure to implement the principle. The Liberals have promised that within their first 100 days of being re-elected, they'd introduce legislation to combat serious forms of harmful online content. That includes hate speech, terrorist content, content that incites violence, child sexual abuse material, and the non-consensual distribution of intimate images. It would also hold social media platforms and online services accountable for the content they host, all while recognizing the importance of freedom of expression for all Canadians. The proposal specifically targeted major platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Pornhub under a new legal category that deems them online communication service providers and under the authority of the new Digital Safety Commission. In the Liberal platform, the party pledges to achieve a 40 to 45% reduction in emissions by 2030 compared to 2005 levels. However, there's one big dark cloud hanging over Trudeau's credibility when it comes to keeping his commitment: his party's track record. During the election campaign, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh accused Trudeau of having the worst record of all G7 countries when it comes to emissions. That allegation is backed up by a recent report from the Centre for Policy Alternatives, which showed Canada's emissions increased by 3.3% during this period, while the United States emissions grew by less than 1%. And the other 5 G7 nations decreased emissions. Since Trudeau was first elected in 2015, Canada's greenhouse gas emissions have risen every year, according to the government statistics. These include emissions from exported fossil fuels, which went up by about 15% between 2016 and 2019.
Oh my gosh, thank you for a great race. Thank you for a great race. When Anna...
Marcy Ian has won the riding of Toronto Centre for the Liberals. Ian held the riding she first won in a by-election last year after former Liberal Finance Minister Bill Morneau resigned. After decades as a broadcast journalist at CTV, Ian, who was born in St. Jamestown, says she was inspired to run for office after George Floyd's murder and other events of 2020. Her main competitor in this race was Green leader Annamie Paul, who has now lost her third bid to represent Toronto Centre.
Annamie became the leader of the Green Party. I reached out right away and said, "You've made history, and that is amazing, and wishing you all the best."
Humira Rahman will continue with Canada elections in the Toronto Centre.
The Green Party lost ground in Monday's election, with leader Annamie Paul losing her third bid for a seat even as the party's elected its first candidate in Ontario. Paul had seen a swell of support in last year's by-election when she drew 33% of the vote and came in second behind Liberal Marcy Ian. But that support appeared to deflate by Monday's election, with Paul falling far behind her main rivals.
I just spoke with Marcy Ian before coming down here. I wanted to sincerely congratulate her. I hope that, and I'm sure that the people of Toronto Centre will make sure that that she provides them with good representation. Congratulated her on her race here in Toronto Centre. Clearly, I am, well, not clearly, but I will tell you that certainly I am disappointed. It is hard to lose. No one likes to lose.
Toronto spent nearly $2 million to clear encampments in 3 city parks this summer, and homeless advocates say the amount does not include the hidden cost of displacing and scattering vulnerable people during a pandemic. Advocates said the city should have spent the money on permanent housing and supports for unhoused people, which would have been a more compassionate approach to homelessness in Toronto. They added the total costs are likely much higher than the city has reported. It's a colossal waste, advocates said. That money could have gone to house people. The city released the final cost of its violent evictions on Friday in a news release, saying the money was spent to enforce notices under Ontario's Trespass to Property Act, provide security, carry out landscaping, and erect fencing in Trinity Bellwoods, Alexandra, and Lamport Stadium parks.
Ex-University, formerly Ryerson University, is installing a monument commemorating the institution's commitment to reconciliation that will be revealed on September 22nd. 2 days prior, the university's annual powwow held during Indigenous Education Week. The university said in a statement that this monument is a part of a multi-year project that emerged from the university's Truth and Reconciliation Strategic Working Group and in collaboration with the university's indigenous community. Ryerson University Standing Strong released its report with a list of recommendations for the university in late August. This report included the recommendation which led to the decision for Ryerson University to change its name.
Pathways to Education is a nonprofit organization that provides support for students in high school with the hopes of ensuring youth successfully complete high school and continue into post-secondary. Pathways to Education came to Regent Park in 2001, providing a bursary of $4,000 to support those going to a public post-secondary program, group mentoring happening in a safe and secure space. TTC tickets were given bi-weekly to support attendance and extracurricular activities. However, Pathways to Education isn't exactly what it once was, and residents of Regent Park have been struggling to get adjusted to the dramatic cuts in the budget due to recent events. Pathways is no longer providing students with the same financial supports. The $4,000 bursary has been cut in half, and the bi-weekly bus tickets have been cut out and replaced with a $50 gift card every semester. Saima Islam, a current student at Northern Secondary School, talks about how the lack of financial and academic support has taken a toll on her confidence as she enters her final year of high school. The main reason I joined Pathways is that my school is 45 minutes away, and the TTC tickets help me get to school every day on time. Now that they aren't offering that, I have to pay for my own Presto every single month. It's adding to the pressures of my final year. In order to pay for my Presto every month, I have to work a part-time job, and I'm nervous about my time management skills. Usually I would go to Pathways tutoring at the Spectrum, but now that it's online, it's not like it once was.
The Moss Park station is expected to be the 6th busiest line in Ontario. It has been brought to the community's attention that the Infrastructure Ontario has no plans to designate Moss Park a transit-oriented community, as stated in the Metrolinx info session hosted by Ontario Line coordinators. Consequently, the area will be excluded from benefits that other Ontario Line stations will spur, including an increase in job and employment as well as housing. Metrolinx intended to tunnel north of Queen Street under the parkland to minimize road closure and interference with the Queen streetcar. The station will be located at the northwest corner of Queen and Sherbourne Street, right behind the Moss Park Arena.
So right here, that's where the entrance of the subway will be built. That's where it will be a large box.
Historically, the Moss Park neighborhood has lacked an active community association, an obstacle for government to consistently engage with residents and businesses.
From the city or purchase it outright, and that's where the location of the station box will be. The subway will run on the park side. Now, so not under the streets, but under the park, because it's already owned by the city and it can be ripped up. So the subway is going to be built very deep underground, deeper than all of our existing infrastructure, including the existing subway. So it'll be going even deeper, right at the bedrock, to the lowest you can go. And it will run underneath where all the trees are. So likely all those trees are going to have to be removed.
The subway station proposal is essentially an opportunity for the community to share their voice and help shape the future of Moss Park. Building Roots, a progressive grassroots social venture, wants more community consultation on the Moss Park station by different levels of government and Metrolinx. Building Roots has proposed a July 24th community meeting to include residents, business owners, and unhoused neighbors. Building Roots organized a community conversation and a guided neighborhood walk that happened on September 11th at the Moss Park Market to learn more about the subway station planned in Moss Park, as well as how it would affect the residents of the neighborhood.
But Moss Park, as many of you all know, is fairly disjointed. There's a lot of interests here. Business interests, resident interests, small business interests. And sometimes they don't always congeal together. But the subway gives us something we can all kind of rally around and then express our own opinions and thoughts on how we want to benefit from that project. And just like Waleed said, if you don't speak up, you're not going to get heard. And it's really as simple as that. It's really a numbers game. The Moss Park Coalition is the first real attempt of bringing this community together, in decades, as far as I know, and I've done a lot of research in this community. So please tell your neighbors, please tell your friends, speak to the business owners that this is ongoing. We really want to usher in something special here. And when the time comes to have these conversations with Metrolinx, with the government, with our local councillor, with Infrastructure Ontario, we'll be ready to have those conversations and be ready to sit down with them as equals. And that's the real important thing, as equals, not as subservient and the master, but as equals, because the government, they do work for us, the police, they work for us. Theoretically speaking, they don't always do that, but it's why we need to speak out and speak up and be loud.
Regent Park Community Health Center is running a COVID vaccination clinic at 40 Oak Street. The clinic is open every Tuesday from 2:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. The 40 Oak Street clinic uses Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. The clinic is open to anyone. People with no immigration status are welcome. The clinic is fully wheelchair accessible. Multilingual and privacy stations are available. And now we go with Humira with information on events in the Regent Park area.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Humira, and I will be covering this week's events of the neighborhood. First, I'll be speaking about Sunday in the Park, which happened on September 19th. This Sunday in the Park was the 30th annual event and is the longest festival running in Regent Park. This year, there are two main components to this event. First, there was an online Zoom session that featured quiz games, a virtual tour of Regent Park, as well as COVID vaccine educational videos and games. The second component to this event featured a grab-and-go food pickup at the Daniel Spectrum. The Sunday in the Park Planning Committee has applied for a city permit to hold a live Sunday in the Park for October Sunday 10th. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that this event gets approved. Our next event that we'd like to cover in the Regent Park area is the SDP event. On September 22nd, 2021, there will be a visioning session that is in connection with the Social Development Plan. This event will be hosted on Zoom and is created to hear from residents in the Regent Park community to hear about what their priorities are and what they'd like to see in the area. The goal is to compile all community projects, proposals, and ideas to align with the goal of the SDP and its 4 working goals. As a part of this process, the SDP will be making recommendations to the City of Toronto on funding for projects in Regent Park. There is a $500,000 budget to spend before the end of 2021 for projects that will launch for 2022. For more information about the community visioning session, please contact Lindsay Jackson, which you can contact through her email at lindsay.jackson@toronto.ca. Next up on our list of events, we have Mustafa the Poet's concert tickets up for sale. Mustafa the Poet came straight out of Regent Park and is now selling out shows and will be hosting his first live concert at the Massey Hall on December 1st at 8:30 p.m. Tickets can be found on the Massey Hall website or through Mustafa the Poet's Instagram page. Prices range between $25 to $60 and I can't wait to see you all there. Another event that will be taking place this next week is brought to you by the Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition, TCHC, and Trudeau, called the Community Learning Series. There will be multiple sessions held offered to Regent Park residents in order to hear about the updates on phases 4 and 5 of the revitalization. If you have any questions about the learning series or would like to request translation services or support with child mining, please email talkregentpark@torontohousing.ca or visit regentparkcoalition.ca for more information about this session. And for our final event of the evening, we have the relaunch of the Youth Enrichment Academy. This program will assist youth aged between grades 6 to 8 with tutoring, mentoring, exercise, and also there will be financial supports available for those who join. They are taking new registers on www.joinyay.ca, but spots are limited, so please sign up as soon as you can. My name is Humira Rahman, and that is all the updates I have for the events this week. See you guys next week.
And that's all for today's show. My name is Fred Alvarado, and my co-hosts Murphy Brown and Humira Rahman, delivering local news from our headquarters at Focus Media Arts Center. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.